Your neighbor just bought a BMW. His Instagram is full of it. He's tagging the dealership, the color, the trim level, and somewhere deep in your gut, you felt it. That tiny stab of, I need to get my life together. Here's what nobody told you. That guy is probably broke. Not broke, like ramen and no heat broke. Broke like he makes $140,000 a year and has $11,000 in savings. Broke like one medical bill away from restructuring his whole life. The car is real. The wealth is theater. And this is the thing that separates people who look rich from people who actually are. And I promise you, by the end of this, you're going to see every purchase you make completely differently. But first, I need to tell you about a pattern I noticed. Something hiding in plain sight that almost nobody talks about. Stick with me. Rich people, genuinely, quietly, actually wealthy people, are the worst consumers in America. They are. They buy less, they upgrade slower, and they almost never buy the things you'd expect them to. The stuff they skip? That's where the real money is. Let's start with the one that's going to bother you. They don't buy new cars. Not the way you think. The data on this has been clear for decades. Thomas Stanley spent years interviewing American millionaires and found that the majority drove used vehicles, often 2 to 4 years old, bought outright or financed minimally. No lease, no $800 monthly payment. The average millionaire he surveyed had never paid more than $35,000 for a car in their life. Ever. Your coworker leasing an Audi on a $75,000 salary isn't building wealth. He's renting a depreciating asset to signal a status he hasn't earned yet, and the car company loves him for it. The genuinely wealthy guy? He's driving a 3-year-old Toyota he paid cash for. He has no monthly payment, he has no loan. And every month, he's moving money somewhere you can't see. They don't buy the biggest house they can afford. This one hits different, because we've all been told, from parents, from mortgage brokers, from every HGTV show ever made, that you should buy as much house as you can qualify for. Stretch your budget, grow into it. It's an investment. It's not. Your house is not an investment. It's an expense that occasionally appreciates. The wealthy understand that housing is a place to live, not a strategy. They tend to buy conservatively, below what they could technically qualify for me, because they know every extra dollar in the mortgage is a dollar that can't compound anywhere else. They don't want the granite countertops if it means carrying a payment for 30 years that eats their cash flow. The person maxing out their mortgage because real estate always goes up is betting their financial future on one illiquid asset in one zip code. The wealthy person is betting on many things. Quietly. They don't buy premium everything. This one is subtle. Walk into the home of someone worth $8 million, and you might be surprised. The olive oil is from Costco. The shoes are decent but not designer. The jeans are from Gap maybe. There's a certain unlabeled, unperformative quality to how they live. This isn't accidental. It's a form of discipline that accumulated over time. They learned, usually early, to distinguish between what makes their life genuinely better and what makes other people think their life is better. That's a distinction most of us never really make. If you're dropping $400 on sunglasses that do the exact same job as $40 sunglasses, ask yourself honestly, who is that for? If the honest answer is other people, that's money being spent on an audience. And the audience isn't paying your bills. They don't buy financial products they don't understand. This one costs regular people billions of dollars every year and almost nobody talks about it. Whole life insurance sold to a 28-year-old engineer as a wealth-building tool. Variable annuities dressed up as retirement accounts. Structured products with fees buried 4 documents deep. Complex alternatives marketed to people who just want to feel sophisticated about money. The wealthy have advisors, real ones. But they also do something most people skip entirely. They ask questions until they understand. They don't sign things because the person across the table seems credible. They don't buy financial products the way people buy apps. On trust and a quick overview. If you can't explain, in plain language, how a financial product makes you money and what it costs you to own it, you don't own an investment. You own someone else's commission. Drop a comment below if you've ever been sold something in a meeting that you didn't fully understand until way later. You are not alone. They don't buy things to celebrate. This one is quiet but real. The bonus lands, the deal closes, the quarter ends strong, and most people immediately translate that into something visible. The watch, the trip, the dinner at a restaurant where the entrees don't have prices. The reward. Genuinely wealthy people celebrate differently, or sometimes barely at all. Not because they're joyless, but because they learned something most of us haven't. The reward isn't the thing. The reward is the next position, the next investment, the next move that compounds the win. They might celebrate with an experience that costs almost nothing, a weekend off, a dinner at home with people they actually like. Then Monday, the money is already working again. The person who blows a bonus on a visible celebration is essentially paying taxes twice, once to the government, once to their own ego. The wealthy pay once and invest the rest. They don't buy the subscription version of everything. Streaming services, gym memberships, software suites, meal kits, wine clubs, box subscriptions. The modern economy has been masterfully engineered to turn every purchase into a recurring monthly drain that you forget you're paying. The wealthy audit this ruthlessly. They know what they're paying monthly in subscriptions the way most people know their Netflix password. Without thinking, automatically. They cancel things, they renegotiate. They pay annually when the discount is meaningful and skip entirely when the value isn't there. It's not that $17 a month breaks a wealthy person. It doesn't. But the mindset that generated the wealth is the same mindset that notices $17 for something they haven't used in 3 months. These things don't change. The discipline that built the first $100,000 is the same discipline that built the next 10. They don't buy urgency, flash sales, limited time offers. Only 3 left at this price. Last chance emails with countdown timers. This entire architecture of commerce is designed for one thing: to make you decide before you've thought. The wealthy buy slowly on expensive things, they sleep on it, they compare, they ask someone they trust. They've learned that urgency is almost always manufactured and that the deal that expires tonight is usually available again next week at the same price. If you've ever bought something because it felt like you couldn't wait and then used it twice and forgot about it, you know exactly what this costs you. Not just the money, the pattern. They don't buy their kids everything. This might be the most uncomfortable one. Kids of genuinely wealthy parents often have less than you'd expect. No credit cards at 16, they work summer jobs, they're told no, not because their parents can't afford to say yes, but because their parents understand that a kid who gets everything learns the value of nothing. The wealthy know that the greatest thing they can give their children isn't stuff. It's the ability to earn, to delay, to tolerate discomfort, and to understand money as a tool rather than a prize. The families that build generational wealth aren't building it with gifts. They're building it with frameworks. They don't buy into lifestyle inflation. Every time income goes up, there's a natural pull to let spending rise with it. Bigger apartment, better car, more meals out, nicer vacations. This is lifestyle inflation, and it is the silent killer of wealth building in America. The raise comes in, and within 6 months, the person is as financially stretched as they were before. The standard of living went up. The savings rate stayed the same. The number changed. The position didn't. Wealthy people, especially in the early years, you think kept their lifestyle nearly flat while their income grew. The gap between what they made and what they spent is where wealth was built. Not in the salary, in the gap. And here's the thing nobody says out loud. The behavior of genuinely wealthy people, taken as a whole, looks almost boring from the outside. No visible celebration, no symbolic purchases, no performance. Just a long, quiet, unsexy accumulation of small good decisions, compounding over time into something that looks, to everyone watching, like overnight success or luck. It wasn't luck, it was restraint, repeated for years. You're not broke because you don't make enough. In most cases, you're financially stuck because the culture around you has made visible consumption feel like identity, like personality, like proof that you're doing well. The real proof is invisible. It's in an account you don't post about. It's in the car you didn't finance. It's in the subscription you canceled and never mentioned. It's in the dinner you cooked instead of the reservation you made to impress someone who wasn't thinking about you anyway. The wealthy aren't buying what you think they are, which means the path there isn't what you think it is either. If this hit different, subscribe and share this video to your loved one who need this, because everything on this channel is built around what money actually looks like when nobody's watching.